It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here. We'll talk a little bit about some of the PC announcements at CES. It's all virtual, but there's some interesting stuff to talk about. And then it's shock and awe with some big executive changes at both Microsoft and Intel. Windows Weekly is coming up next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 707, recorded Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. One telemetry at a time. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Smart Deploy. With Smart Deploy, IT can manage PCs from anywhere. Leverage your existing network or cloud infrastructure to deploy Windows apps, BIOS updates, and more. Set up and start managing PCs in an afternoon. Claim your free subscription for up to 15 machines. That's worth $575 at smartdeploy.com/twit. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Microsoft. Some might say the latest snooze this time of the year. It's quiet, it's calm. But you know what? Here are a couple of people who, even in the eye of the storm, can find a way to make a hurricane. Mr. Paul Thurrott. I've been working on my
curious where that was going, but
Yeah.
Mr. Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com. Ms. Mary Jo Foley of allaboutmicrosoft.com at CDNet. And together, these people, they're the greatest. These guys, they're great. Are Microsoft experts. Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
hello, Leo.
Hello. Are you going to CES? You're on your way to Vegas right now?
I have done a little virtual CES thing. I've watched some of it. I actually have watched more of it than I thought I was going to.
Is it
verified.
engaging? Because it sounds like they're really trying hard to make it interesting.
So I think I mentioned, I don't know, last week or a couple weeks ago that back in September when they had IFA, they did this virtual version of that show where they had this kind of, PR site for like a Showstoppers type show.
Right.
So they're doing that again, Showstoppers and PepCom both. And I have visited both of them. It's not completely useless, but it really is. I got to say, this is driving home my long-held belief that going to Vegas for CES is not strictly necessary. Although the one exception to that would be the personal meetings with the people we know.
Everybody agrees.
PC makers.
That's the real reason for these events is so that we journalists can hang out and drink heavily.
Exactly.
Yes.
Eat some cheese plates.
Yep. Have some beer.
Well, have some free martinis at an ice bar. Am I asking too much of people?
I know. Well, did you guys see? There were pictures of Vegas, and they were like flooded streets and pouring rain. And
it's good we're not there. Yeah.
Oh, I've been there and had it snow in January. During CES 1 year.
Yep.
So, but from a point of view of the information you gain, this is easier, right?
It's the same, right? I mean, for Mary Jo doesn't go to CES. She's smart.
I don't.
Right. And so, whatever email you're getting this year is probably like any other year where you're wondering why some company from I get emails from like massage therapy and, the stuff that's completely outside of my industry for some reason. CES is weird like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
For me, it's no different. For me, it's no different because there's so few things I care about at CES anymore that I would just look at it virtually anyway, so it's kind of the same.
Yeah. The truth, look, Lenovo in particular, but HP and Dell and Acer and other companies as well have announced a lot of new computers. But they do this every year.
Anyway.
And there's nothing truly revolutionary happening. Of course there isn't. I mean, this is where we are. We're still at a spot where we're trying to catch up to the demand of last year. I mean, I think just meeting the kind of meat and potatoes needs of customers right now is probably the best approach. And so, obviously, I guess you could go, run down every single ThinkPad, whatever that Lenovo just announced, or every Elite, Envy Spectre that HP just announced, or whatever. But, it's what you expect to know. It's 11th gen, Intel chips, and it's Thunderbolt, and it's all this stuff, and it's great, but it's just really not that different from what happens every year. So I I don't know that there's a single individual computer I feel the need to discuss.
Normally
Normally
there'd be about 4,500 exhibitors. There were last year.
Right.
There's 1,900 this year, so it is definitely smaller.
Yeah.
But I wonder, given kind of what's going on in the world right now, if they weren't doing this online, I think it'd be even worse, right?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Remember they were going to have it be a live show initially?
Yeah. Yep. I know. Yeah.
And that would be far worse.
Well, but I mean, even
be
imagine
way
if there wasn't a pandemic, right? I mean, I don't you kind of feel like CS is probably kind of peaked anyway?
Yeah. Well, this is going to be the nail in the coffin.
I feel like it's a different show than it used to be, right? Like it's more of an
Yes.
appliances show, right? An IoT show.
Oh, and I will say, by the
than
way,
it is
yeah.
a
So
computer show.
Right.
I talked to HP, and you know Mike Nash very well, obviously,
Yeah.
and he
I like Mike. He's a
pointed
nice
out
guy. I remember that last year. Yeah.
He had said, he commented on something we said probably last week in anticipation of the show, where we described CES is no longer being just a consumer show. It's a consumer and business because, it's like one of two big times a year where they can announce stuff. And to that he said, right. He said, that's correct. That it has, and like you said just now, I mean, it's evolved from its roots. I think Comdex disappearing many years ago now kind of pushed a little bit of that into CS to begin with. I'm sure if you go back to the early 1980s or whatever, CS was probably Atari 2600s and washing machines and, whatever, VHSs.
There was always cars, like the North Hall always had a lot of automotive stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what the big loss is? TVs. I mean, I know this doesn't impact you guys, but the big central hall. Remember, LG had always.
Oh yeah, it was all
huge
TVs.
Display.
Yep.
And that's one thing you really can't judge a TV over the internet.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
That's
true when you're
big
buying
loss.
one too. You want to go to a Best Buy or whatever's left, and just kind of look at them. And that terrible lighting, unfortunately,
It's got worse and
kinda kills
worse.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this point, consumers rely on reviewers, but reviewers can't go and look at these anywhere. So it's an interesting conundrum,
It is.
I was also looking, one of the things, I don't remember if it was Showstoppers at Pepcom or whatever, but, you kind of look through the grid of vendors, and some of them, like I said earlier, are big players like HP, and some of them small companies that maybe they do storage and portable hard drives and stuff like that. And then there's these companies no one's ever heard of. But then there's these companies that are like Bowflex, I almost wanted to contact Blowflex and be like, hey, I looked at your PR stuff. I'd like the Peloton-like thing that you make, and also the gigantic weight thing.
They'd send it
Can I
to
get
you.
that?
I bet you they'd send it to you.
I almost asked,
I bet
like,
they
just
would.
to see what they
Desperate at
would
this
say.
point. No, I
They'd be
I
like,
bet
who are
they
you
would.
exactly? Yeah.
No, they would
It's
totally.
going to cost several $100 just to ship one of those things,
They probably would just say keep it because we don't. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
We don't
To
even
ship
want it
it,
back. Yeah.
Right. I'm looking to save money at the gym. Can you just send me one of everything?
Well, that is a big category, isn't it? Right now.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Huge category.
Yep.
Yep.
The other difference this year I noticed was there's so many more gaming laptops than before.
Oh, that's interesting. Of course, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, other years there'd be one or two, but I feel like every vendor is like, and we have some gaming laptops too. And I'm like, yeah, gaming is really taken off this.
I think,
because of the pandemic.
2020 helped
Right.
goose that quite a bit, don't you think? Not just on PCs,
Totally.
but across the board. Gaming is much bigger.
What about that rollable PC though? Did you see that?
wait a minute, rollable.
I saw a rollable phone
like
from
a
LG.
luggage bag. Rollable?
Maybe it was a phone. It was a phone.
I think it was,
No,
everything was
it
the
was
LG
like a phone
foldable
that
phone.
rolls
Or
up.
rollable
Oh,
phone.
it rolls up. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you can make it. It's like a
Yeah.
little burrito.
No, but there was also, and it's probably a prototype or concept, a PC that was like a scroll,
Yeah.
like an Egyptian
Yeah.
scroll.
Yeah.
It would open up, and then you.
I think that, yeah, both of those ideas of rolling instead of folding. It's
Right.
like last year was foldables, this year it's rollables, right? It's like, okay.
Jeez. I don't know. Anyway,
I know.
whatever. I don't know. To me, the more
nothing bowled
interesting
me
thing.
over that I saw.
Right.
No, like I
But-
just was like scrolling through things. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. I mean, from a PC perspective, I would say Intel and AMD both had big announcements, and to me,
Yeah.
those are interesting on a number of levels. And those are the technologies we're going to see in new PCs. This year. I don't know if you caught you probably didn't watch this, I guess, but AMD's CEO had a keynote or press conference or whatever, and she had Panos Panay on virtually, and Panos did his little talk about whatever Surface and AMD partnership, and of course that partnership has only resulted in a single kind of lackluster computer because it's 2 generations old now. But when they were done talking, she said, "Go ahead." It's okay. She was like, "Thank you, Panos, blah, blah, blah." And then she said, "Now let's talk about the PC." I was like, "Were we just talking about the PC?" I mean, it was kind of it was unintentional,
It was, yes, it was scripted probably, yeah.
Yeah, and it just came out. It to me, and I watched it a couple of times because you can go back and rewatch it. And I'm like, this. It's an unintentional slight, but it's like we're talking to a guy who makes PCs, and it's like, well, now we're really going to talk about PCs. So
let's talk about real PCs.
So this is the phone that you were talking about, Mary Jo. This is from TCL, and it's it's an expandable phone. Watch, because it's unrolling. I
don't think this is the one she was talking about. This is a Samsung rollable.
Yeah, no, that isn't the one. But look at that weirdo thing.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? So I don't know.
So you're supposed to carry the gadget with you, like do it?
Yes.
Yeah. Does anyone have a hitch for my phone?
And then this is the one I was thinking of, also from TCL.
That one. That was what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's the scroll. It's like the Egyptian scroll display. So weird.
So weird.
But the point really is that these demos are coming from display makers. Then now they have to get somebody to make a device with this, and they're just saying, well, we can do it. LG's rollable display, which they showed last year at CES, some ridiculous amount of money. Remember that thing? You'd have a box on your TV stand, and you press a button, and it would unroll and come up.
Yeah.
They showed it several years, and I think they finally started selling it this year. But it was really expensive. I'll find the price. It was crazy. The LG rollable OLED TV. It's a revolutionary new experience.
Sure it is.
Yeah, for those of you with the money.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yes. But this is for people who don't want to admit they watch television. So it's really that's a long-standing tradition. You used to put it in a cabinet, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Now you just roll it up.
Yeah.
That'd be me and the Xbox. I need a rollable Xbox. So I always disk the Xbox, but then when I'm at home, I can unroll it.
Mary Jo, I feel like the Xbox One Series S would be small and would fit in your apartment nicely. It's cute and white. It would kind of fit in with the decor.
No.
You barely even notice it. You could use it as a step stool when you have to get something high in the cabinets.
Okay, there we go. See, if it has many purposes, then we can
it's a multi-purpose device.
Yeah, I don't know. The other thing I thought I saw more mentions of this year were LTE devices, like LTE as an option at least in more PCs, which I thought was interesting. Even though people are more at home, it's the argument is everybody in your household is on Wi-Fi, so you might want to be on LTE while you're at home because your network's already overloaded.
Yeah, just realize the meter's running on that when you use it.
Exactly. Yep. But otherwise, I kept looking through the list. I'm like, is there anything here that really jumps out at me? And there really
there's no. You can talk about specific little things. HP has I think it's an Elite Folio, but it's not a Spectre Folio device that has a really neat form factor for that kind of transforming thing, and they're using a faux leather cover where the Spectre. Folios, I remember, had, I think it was real leather.
Real leather,
They looked kind of like a basketball or something.
Yeah, I was going to say football, yeah.
Yeah, and I get, obviously there are environmental and probably PETA-type concerns about the actual leather thing, but the use of natural materials in a computer is interesting. I mean, I feel like it should be practical as well as interesting, but, it probably feels nicer and whatnot, and certainly makes more sense than Alcantara, right?
Yeah. They call it vegan leather. Vegan leather.
Yeah, vegan. Right. Yeah, it's plastic.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
Exactly. It is. It is. Yep.
Pleather.
Yeah, but that's rare, right? I mean, there isn't like a lot of that kind of thing, and I wouldn't say that. I can't think of any other examples of, natural or natural-like materials, I guess in this case, being used in PCs. That's announced at CES.
Weren't there some ARM announcements?
Yeah,
PC
so actually that Folio device is an ARM-based PC.
Oh,
but
interesting. Okay.
And to put that in perspective, the Spectre Folio from a couple of years ago, it might even be 3 years ago now, was a Y series Intel processor. So it was still kind of on the edge from a performance perspective, I'd say. But that particular line those Folio type products are aimed at people that want to use the tablet and the pen and all that stuff, and may care about battery life more than they do about performance. But
what are they using the Qualcomm 8? What is it? 8?
Yeah, so that's the problem, right? So we're in a weird space right now on the Windows 10 on ARM side because Qualcomm has not released a next generation processor for that, and the x64 application emulation is only in very early preview right now. So I think I said this before a couple of shows ago, but I really don't recommend anyone buy a new Windows 10 on ARM PC right now for those reasons, because sometime this year we're absolutely going to see a new processor gen. It should be much better.
The
and then, of course, the x64.
The 888 is there. Supposedly.
Whatever the PC version of that is, right?
A 14 killer.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah,
we'll see. So I just don't, right now it's kind of an awkward time to launch or buy such a product. But, we'll talk in 6 months or something. We'll see what that looks like.
Yeah. So it's not, in other words, it wasn't worth going to Vegas for.
No, it was not. Although at this point, I'd even take Vegas. There's good restaurants. Mary Jo is frozen.
There's water running in the streets.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the kind of thing we look for. Yeah. They have big tunnels under Las Vegas that's supposed to absorb that water.
Well, they also have the monorail. I guess that would be above the water.
Yeah. I actually love the monorail. When we were thinking about moving to Vegas, we were looking at a condo complex that was at one end of the monorail. Yeah, it was one end of it. It was near the convention center, but then you could ride the monorail into downtown, or not downtown, into the Strip. And I thought that'd be kind of fun. You're not living on the Strip, but you could.
Yeah.
You could
you can get there easily.
Take a monorail.
Avoid traffic.
And it was actually very near where the terminus of Elon Musk's big hole, the boring tunnel.
Okay.
So, all right, we're getting Mary Jo back. But, it could be a comment on what we're talking about. I don't know.
I think she was upset about the Windows 10 on ARM.
So you haven't tried any of these newer ARM processors yet? And Windows.
No, I have. I mean, what I'm saying is there isn't a new one yet.
There isn't. It's the same.
Yeah, this is just the same. So I haven't tried the Folio yet. I mean, I will, of course, but I mean,
it seems silly to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah.
Welcome back, Mary Jo. We missed you.
Oh, she's frozen again.
She looks disapproved.
She always has
she looks a little disapproving.
Unhappy expression on her face when she gets frozen.
She's kind of like not happy about us guys. They're saying it's not raining in Vegas right now, but it was raining in Vegas.
Well, I mean, I lived in Phoenix and I've been to Vegas a bunch of times. When it rains, it floods because the ground can't absorb the water.
It's paved. It's paved over.
That's why they have Arroyos.
It was a very good quarter for the PC sales. Best year in a long time.
I've been waiting to see what this looked like because last year, if I can remember this off the top of my head, I want to say last year it was actually last year. I'm sorry, 2019. Right, there was a very small amount of growth, maybe 1% ish over the previous year. Previous 7 years, of course, PC sales had fallen for 7 straight years from its high in 2011, when it was like 365 million units. So finally got the Gartner and IDC numbers. I averaged them. It's the way I've been doing things for years. So it's just the way I approach this. And 8.6% jump over last year, almost 290 million computers. So it's getting close to 300 million. It had been stuck at about 260 for, I'm going to say, 3-4 years in a row. So it had kind of plateaued. I still think that's the new normal. I think that's the kind of natural size of the PC industry at this time. But because of the pandemic, a lot of demand. Both Gartner and IDC expect that demand to continue through at least the first half of this year. Intel and AMD are a little more bullish on that, but of course they are. They make the chips. They want it to keep going, But yeah, I mean, last year was terrible unless you were a PC maker, in which case it was fantastic,
Yeah.
And there's no big. The top 3 PC makers remain unchanged: Lenovo, HP, and then Dell. They even actually sold about the same number of computers and had about the same market share as they did a year ago, which was kind of interesting.
And right below that,
things.
you're leaving out number 4.
I'm not leaving them out. I am ignoring them. No. Apple was number 4. And actually, they gained in market share.
29% increase in the fourth quarter of last year.
Yeah, right, because of the new Macs, right? So for the year, they ended up with, I don't remember the number in millions, but yes, I do, 22.8 million.
Yeah.
And 7.9% market share.
Yeah.
Which is a jump from last year, by the way.
Jump.
Last year was 6.8, I think, last year.
Yeah. Sorry, Mary Jo. Glad to have you back.
I know. I don't know what's going on.
None of us do. That's kind of the condition of life these days.
It is pretty much.
What is happening? I don't know.
I will say, both the times you came back briefly for a still frame, you had a very unhappy expression on your face.
Yeah.
I was looking at my network settings. I'm like, it says I'm connected, but I don't think I am.
Yeah.
You were like, you! And they were kind of frozen.
Your lips were pursed.
Yes, I was angry.
Yeah, whether in thought or anger, we were not sure.
I think it was anger.
Pensively upset.
Yes.
Yes.
So you didn't miss anything. We're just talking about the jump in PC sales for 2020.
Yep.
Although we should go back and discuss that Intel and Qualcomm stuff, because that's both of those are semi-interesting.
Yeah. I know. Pat Gelsinger, he's back.
Who is Pat Gelsinger?
Well, he was
He's now
the CEO
going to be the
of VMware.
CEO of Intel.
Is he? But was he at Intel? I know
He used to be a long time
VMware.
ago. He was this. He
for
was their first CTO.
20-something years, right? He was at
and he
Intel for
became
20-something years.
I don't know if the stock market knows anything, but I do know that Intel, when the announcement was made that Gelsinger was taking over, Intel stock went up and VMware stock went down by almost exactly the same amount.
I think they do know.
Maybe they know.
Well,
something.
Intel made a point of saying, look, you should look at their announcement post. It literally says this has nothing to do with anything financial. We are going to announce those soon, and I honestly, their results are probably going to be fantastic because of the PC boom. But the current guy, whose name now escapes me, Swan. Thank you. It was always interim, right? He was an interim CEO, so they were always going to replace him, and that's.
I know. I saw some people saying the difference with Swan and all the preceding Intel CEOs was he was a finance guy and everybody else was an engineer, like Gelsinger is. But I don't know. I think sometimes that's just a convenient way to say, yeah, we've been lost and we needed to attribute that to something. So we're just going to say the finance guy didn't know what was up, even though he was the CEO. Come on,
I think an engineer should be in charge of an engineering company like Intel. To me, that makes sense.
So no, people are excited about him coming to Intel and being the CEO. Yeah. Like I've seen a lot of people saying okay, I'm not going to say it'll fix everything that Intel's had problems with, but it's a very good sign that they're bringing him in. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Qualcomm buying Nuvia. Is that how you say the name of that company?
I've never heard of them until today, but I assume that's correct.
Yeah.
A chip company?
Yeah, a CPU design company made up of former Apple engineers.
Oh, interesting.
I know. I'm like, that's very interesting, right? Yeah, I know. So I think the most interesting stuff's been chip stuff, right?
Yeah, response to the M1, you think?
Perhaps.
I have to think that the whole ARM industry, and even the Intel industry, is scrambling to kind of think of how they're going to respond to the.
So, Leo, I'm going to read something to you, and you tell me if this sounds like an M1 reaction. Right?
Okay.
11th Gen Core S series desktop processors aimed for the second half of the year.
Yeah, this is Intel. Yeah.
Yep. Significant breakthrough in x64 architecture, Intel says, right?
Yeah.
Also, their most power scalable system on a chip design that uses an architecture based on high performance and high efficiency cores.
Yeah, big little, which is, of course, what Apple's doing. Yeah. Very interesting.
No, so this is not the first time they've done this, but it looks like this is going to be their big push to respond to ARM without actually embracing ARM, which many feel might be inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, the ARM instruction set isn't magical. I don't think that's the magic.
But maybe that architecture is.
Yeah,
for
so the
mobile
idea
devices,
on the M1 is there's 8 cores, 4 of them are high performance, 4 of them are high efficiency. Apple's been doing this in the iPhone for years, and so it's kind of like speed step until
Qualcomm does too, right? I mean, to be fair,
no,
common.
It's a common architecture on these ARM platforms. And the idea is, just like speed step, but I think maybe it's a little more effective than speed step. You don't use up juice unless you need it.
Yes,
and I can vouch for that on my MacBook Pro. It's the amount of battery life you get is variable depending on what you're doing. Of course, that's true for everything, but it's dramatic. I mean, you can go from 5 hours. Well, to 20
like for
hours,
example, on an Intel PC, if you open Chrome, you don't have any battery life.
Yeah,
so
Exactly.
I guess it depends.
Still the case by the way.
I mean, connected standby on Windows PCs was supposed to make that happen, and it hasn't really done much for that.
Yeah, it's hard for them to do.
But that varies too. Sometimes I have great experiences with that, but even on the same PC, sometimes I don't.
I know. So
that's
Paul,
always been unreliable.
Paul loaned me an AMD-based Envy, HP Envy, and so you shipped it over to me. Well, I didn't charge that thing for a week. Like it just kept going and going and going.
It's amazing.
But then the first time I charged it and started using it, the battery was gone in like 5 hours. I'm like, so what just happened there, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. It really depends what you're doing.
I know, right?
But the fact that it's that responsive to what you're doing is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think of it as unreliable in some cases. See, the computer I use for this, some days I'll come down in the morning and it's just sitting here on. It hasn't logged out. It's just the screen's on. I have no idea why. And sometimes I come down and it's the way it should be. The screen's off. I hit a button. It pops up and I have to log in. I have no idea.
One of the persons at Nuvia, Gerard Williams, was chief architect for Apple CPUs for 10 years, all the way up to A13, which is one generation old. So that really is Qualcomm saying, we want to do whatever it is Apple's doing. We want to do it
right. Well, start with really good marketing.
Yeah. I'm actually thrilled to hear it. I think the benefits of M1 have proven themselves for me, and I'd love to see both Intel, Qualcomm, and AMD take a look at what they can do to make that happen on their platforms.
So that one's interesting because it's kind of a PC platform, right? That Apple in this case has taken a mobile processor that they've evolved over many generations for an increasingly wide gamut of devices, but mostly phones and tablets, let's say. And said, look, how do we modify this thing so that it runs, in their case, Mac desktop software well, And I think, I certainly found this when I tested it, and everyone else has too. I mean, the results are better than expected. And part of the reason for that is, unfortunately, our experience on this side has been with Windows 10 on ARM, which has not performed as well as we had hoped, So there's something magical to it. I mean, I hate to use that term because I know that's a stupid Apple marketing term, but when you've been disappointed so many times by other things, to see them get it right, it's naturally fascinating.
Well, it also is the benefit of controlling the whole stack, hardware and software, and
for sure.
That's something only Microsoft could do at this point.
Yeah.
And
so I don't want to get off into a rant here, but no, I actually just
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, it's more of a historical perspective. Remember that Windows NT was originally architecture agnostic,
right.
And it ran on a bunch of different things: MIPS, PowerPC, Itanium, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yep. And what they found was, we can do this, but obviously x86 is taking over the world, and it turns out, if we optimize for x86, especially with some assembly language stuff, or at least some low-level C stuff, this thing's going to run a lot better. And then they were like, some of this isolation stuff we built into the system, like where the graphics stack is not in the kernel, if we just did that, it would make it run even faster, And yes, there'll be some insecurity there, and there'll be some potential unreliability issues, but, it kind of evolved into what it is today. It's a PC, It's x86. And so when they did Windows 10 on ARM, unfortunately, a lot of the problem with it, I think, is that they kind of left behind the true cross-platform stuff. So the architecture is still there in Windows to do it, but you're emulating x86. You know, it's not. There's no such thing. I don't think as like a pure ARM version of Windows. Like it's all based on x86. You know, basically, right? So I think it creates some problems. I mean, Apple. I think as they make the chips, they were able. I think over those years, they were like, well, what can we do on the hardware side?
Yeah, I completely
to make
agree.
this thing run those types of instructions better.
Yeah, they've had 13 years of experience. I mean, you can't.
Yeah,
and you know, even if you come from Apple's chip design team, I think there's limits on what you can bring with you, except for what the experience that you've gained. So, but Nuvia's
this year is going to be fascinating because they're going to have these chips that have so many more cores. They're going to be aimed at their pro products. They're going to have some kind of GPU, something going on that's a little different than what we have today. I mean, it's just going to keep going, and I can't wait to see what the next one looks like, because that's in a way is where we really find out what their plans are. Because right now it's just the first kind of stab at it. It's impressive, but for like the really high end stuff, I'm really curious how they're going to do that.
Yeah. Well, of course, as we've said all along, it's perfectly possible for them to stumble. But I think there's also a clear path ahead where you just add cores and you add
I don't know.
RAM.
I'm sorry. They've done this before. They did it well. I don't. Yeah, maybe there'll be a couple little things. I pointed out a couple little problems, when I looked at the thing. But I mean, overall,
I wouldn't bet against them.
Yeah, no, it'd be silly to do that.
I'm not going to short my Apple stock, that's for sure.
No.
If I had any, I bet you I don't, but much to my chagrin.
I'm sure Apple is still 40% of my retirement fund,
Well, yeah, it's in,
something like that.
I buy most of my...
no, I mean, I don't know that for a fact.
No, I don't either.
Joking,
Most of my retirement is in what they call target retirement
mutual funds that are.
I don't manage it. I don't even. I can look and find out, but I don't even look.
Yeah.
But the idea is, if you're going to retire in 2025,
this is the secret. One day I'll write my autobiography, and the secret of my success, Leo, is that I've been talking about Microsoft my whole life, but I've been investing in Apple.
Yeah.
I am the world's biggest hypocrite.
There is, and actually, I don't know. This might be stupid. Certainly, no one should follow my stock advice. But as new money comes in, instead of buying the very conservative target retirement funds, I've been buying a Vanguard fund. It's a basket of all technology stocks.
Yeah, actually, so there you can mix and match, right? You could have 30% here, 40% here, 50, whatever the numbers are.
And you're supposed to
have one be really aggressive.
The idea of the target retirement is that they do that, and as you get closer and closer to your retirement date, they replace equities with bonds. They get more conservative.
I'd like to retire a little early. Could we get a little more aggressive, please?
My stockbroker uncle told me, Leo, you got to spend money to make money. It's like, okay.
Yeah. But I'd like a 40% return on investment this year, and then I'm going to be gone.
I think betting on the technology sector is probably not a bad way to go at this point.
Not bad. Yeah, not a bad thing.
Yeah, at least for the next year or so. Anyway, I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe the government will take it all down. I don't know. And as I said, I don't buy individual stocks at all, so I have no idea.
Right. That's
no idea.
Just silly.
I have no idea what's going on. Surface Pro 7 Plus. They didn't do a Surface 8.
No, they did not.
That's kind of
That was a little bit
us.
surprising and lackluster, right? Like everyone's like, yeah, the rumor is Surface Pro 8, Surface Laptop 4, early 2021. And so instead we got Surface Pro 7 Plus, which is a very incremental upgrade to the Surface Pro 7. It looks exactly like it. Same case, same peripherals, same everything. It does have a few changes like 11th generation Intel Core processor, removable SSD, those kind of things. But otherwise, it's a very small upgrade by intention. Like they're just saying this is for businesses and education customers who just need new PCs and they like the Surface Pro form factor. We're just trying to keep them happy and keep the pipeline full of more Surface Pros. That's it.
This feels to me like they punted on a redesign, right? That Microsoft Surface, like Apple, has a history of reusing the same design year after year.
Yep.
The problem is a year and a half ago almost now, they shut off Surface Pro X for the first time. And unfortunately, if you want an Intel machine, you see that and you think, okay, I want that, but I want that with Intel. And they keep selling this, this design's been around since 2015, basically.
Yeah. So what they say, I asked them that, and they said businesses don't want the new form factor. And that may be true because they have docks, they have cases, they have all these things customized to the existing form factor, right? But also, I've seen some people, and I can't think where I saw this, but some people were speculating that they don't believe they could actually put the Intel processor in the Surface Pro X housing. Like it couldn't actually go in it.
But what they could do, and I think fairly easily, is put a 13-ish inch screen in the exact same Surface Pro 7 form factor, smaller bezels, right? Yeah. That machine, just don't change anything else. I mean, that alone would be a nice upgrade. And it wouldn't impact any of that stuff you mentioned with regards to expansion or peripherals or anything like that. Yeah.
Yep. You just want the pen in the little holder in the cover, don't you? I know.
Which, by the way, the HP Folio has. So, if you're looking to move on, there's a cooperative pencil type thing that goes right in the keyboard.
I do like how they did that with the X.
No, that was cute. Yeah. It was very cute.
Yeah, I agree.
I really like that.
And I'm somebody who hates how poorly the pens stick to Surface devices because I'm always losing them and having them fall off.
Anything that is holding it magnetically on the edge is going to fall off when you put it in a bag or a purse. It's just going to slide off. And I don't like it either. I think hiding it inside the case is much better.
I mean, when the pens are like $100 a piece, you don't want to be losing your pens all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
So the pricing wasn't that crazy or anything. I think like there was nothing about it that you were like, wow. I think it's with the Wi-Fi only edition of the Pro 7 Plus, it starts at $899 without a cover and without a pen. And then if you want LTE, it starts at $1,149, also without the keyboard or the pen.
So what's the plus? Is it a faster processor? What's the?
Yeah, it's the 11th gen.
Okay, so it's just
that's about it.
It's a processor upgrade.
Pretty much.
Well, LTE. The LTE thing is an option. And it's a new color. Isn't black? I think black is the other choice.
Oh yeah.
If you like that kind of stuff.
Because there's such a shortage of PCs right now. Believe it or not, there's just everybody went out and bought PCs during the pandemic. And so maybe it's not a bad idea just to say, okay, we're not going to change a whole lot, but we're just going to restock the channel with more of the devices.
Well, so AMD announced, and right after Panos Panay's appearance, their 5000 series processors for mobile, which should be amazing. The NV that you were referring to, Mary Jo, is a 4000 series, which is great. Yep. The original, I should say the Surface Laptop 3 has the 3000 series, which is terrible. So presumably we will be seeing a Surface Laptop 4. Couldn't be before February. I think that's the first time frame for those new computers. But as far as I'm concerned, Microsoft can't move to the new processor quickly enough when it comes to the laptop product. Yeah, and that's a case where they could just leave everything else the same. I don't think that many people would complain. They have 13 and 15-inch versions, and just put the new AMD stuff inside of it. It'd be incredible.
Yeah. The other thing they announced this week, although they've already announced this before, was that the Surface Hub 2S 85-inch is going to start shipping this month in volume in select markets. So that's the giant touchscreen Windows 10 device. I was kind of curious about this because not that many people are going back to the office yet. And I'm like, so who is buying these, right? 85-inch, they're a beautiful device, but...
But the software change, was very telling on this.
It was. Yeah. So you can buy it with Windows 10, plain old Windows 10, and you don't have to buy it with Windows 10 Team. Is that what they call it? Team, which is the customized OS, right, for the hub. Yep. And they announced that actually late last year that you would have the option, if you wanted to run plain old Windows 10 on your Surface Hub device. So I asked them when I was talking to them, by the way, what about the plain old display? Remember they announced that 2 years ago that there'd be a monitor that was based on the Surface Hub, but didn't have the compute power in it. And they said, we have nothing to say about that. So we don't know where that is or if it's ever coming.
Well,
And
I mean,
2X. Okay, remember this whole idea? You were going to switch out the cartridge and have
Yep,
a different,
almost 2 years ago
different
now.
device. They also said no comment on that, and they're very focused on software. I'm like, yeah, that's never going to happen.
Yeah,
right? Like,
I've
that's
learned
not
my
gonna
lesson.
happen.
This is not. A lot of companies promise this kind of,
Yeah.
and
just swap it out.
we now have the perfect excuse, right, to cover up any
Right.
problems that might have been on the back end by saying, well, the pandemic
People
changed
don't want
everything,
it.
and there's no need for this
Yeah.
kind of product anymore.
Yeah.
You know what? The one thing I looked at, and maybe call me crazy, is this Asus dual screen, the ZenBook Pro. It's kind of wacky. It's got a keyboard.
We
It
took
is.
the touch bar and we made it nuts.
Yeah, it's like a giant.
I know.
That's kind of, okay, now I'm not interested. You just convinced me.
Well, it's a little strange looking.
It's a little weird.
Plus, it's
It's the whole two
missing
screens are better than one, right?
Yeah.
Like concept.
Yeah, it's two. They're both.
I think we're
OLEDs.
going to see a lot of stuff like this that comes and goes. That these companies are
same.
trying. You know, they're
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is different. We'll see. You know, there's some gaming PCs where the keyboard slides forward a little bit, like you see in that picture, but instead of having another screen there, it's the internals with fans and stuff, and it can kind of.
Oh, that's
I'm sure it
weird.
sounds better. It's probably the speakers are there too, but it lets
That's
it,
weird. Breathe.
drain the
Yeah.
heat a little bit more
It
easily.
breathes. Well,
Yeah.
this
You can put a frying pan on there.
heat your coffee. I don't know.
Yeah, keep your coffee going. Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting.
I will. So the Microsoft post, by the way, about Surface Pro 7 Plus and the new Surface Hub has an interesting angle toward the future, right? They're trying to say like this
Yeah.
is good for now, but they foresee, they're sort of saying in this post, you know, maybe by the second half of this year, people will be returning to the workplace. And so these things are almost investments in the future because you can use them now. And with the Surface Hub, maybe use it with Windows 10 instead of the Teams product or whatever. But eventually people are going to start coming back. And obviously Surface Pro is super portable. That's great. And then, maybe you, flash this thing and we put it back in the normal mode where Teams can use it again. So
I think you
we'll
have an
see.
option,
I mean,
right? I think they keep the option of whether you want to have the dedicated, specialized, customized OS for the team,
Yeah.
the Team Hub device thing, or
It's probably like S
if you
mode.
decide
you can probably
I want to just
refresh it. You know?
for free.
Well, I think so. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think you're paying extra for the
No,
software,
I'm kidding.
right? I
I'm
think it's-
kidding. I'm joking about S mode. Remember when they?
Oh,
were
I'm sorry. The
charge?
S mode for free. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you do like a PC reset or whatever they
Yeah.
call it, and
Yep.
maybe you get the option at that point. I don't know how it works
Yeah.
exactly. Maybe you get it from the
Yeah,
factory
yeah.
that way. I'm not sure.
Yep. So yeah, I guess they think they can sell these because they are introducing them. And I remember at one point there was actually a backlog of orders for the original 2S. Weren't you and Brad trying to get one?
Oh yeah. And by the way,
Or one of
that's
you guys
like
were?
years ago now. It's hard to even remember.
I know.
No, I think I was still in Dedham, so it was probably 4 years ago, and that
Yeah.
you could not buy one of them. We were going to get the 55-inch version.
That's
you
right.
could not buy them.
They were totally like the waiting lists were thousands of people,
Yeah.
right? Which
Yep.
is kind of counterintuitive because of the price and the size. But yeah, they were selling them
Yeah.
before the pandemic.
You want to see something cool?
Yeah.
I'm running Windows on ARM on my
No way.
Macintosh.
on the Mac.
In
Oh wow.
parallels.
Does it work well?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
here's Edge. It works okay.
So I've tested this. If you upgrade it to the latest Insider build, you can get x64 apps on there.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm
Like that.
running. Is
It
the
works.
Insider build.
Mm-hmm.
Some it's weird because some. I guess I'm not on the internet, but I'll
That problem you're having right there, by the way,
yeah.
that happened to me all the time. And if you right-click troubleshoot, it will just reconnect it.
Yeah. I'm sure it's easy.
I have no idea why it does this, but it happened to me
It
like
could be a
basically every time I ran.
parallels issue. But
Yeah, it's a preview.
one of the things that's weird, like calculator doesn't run. There are some.
Oh, I can tell you why.
Why?
A lot of the store apps don't run. So
The store
a
doesn't
lot of
even
the store
run.
apps, including the store app itself,
Yeah.
are ARM32 executables.
That's what I suspected.
And
Yep.
they're 32-bit.
They need to be 64. But a lot of stuff
So
does
yeah,
run,
the
including-
Apple processor can only do 64-bit.
Right. Word runs. I mean, and-
ARM, 64-bit ARM, I should say.
So, I mean, there's Word. It feels pretty snappy. I mean, it's not bad at all. So it's interesting to run it on. So this is Windows on ARM running on the M1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you actually get it on there?
Oh, easy. Parallels has a
Parallels.
preview.
Okay.
So the Parallels preview is designed for the M1, and then you download the. And I had to do the insider build. I'm on 21286.rs, and which is Windows on ARM. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I suspected, Paul. That those were 32-bit.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of it's a nice proof of concept, I guess. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just as a sellable product, it's not viable to use Windows 10 and ARM on Apple because it's not officially supported.
Right.
One of the things that Parallels does normally is, as part of the process of setting this thing up, you can buy Windows through them. It's all up and legit. And Microsoft doesn't offer Windows 10 and ARM for purchase. You have to get an insider preview version, and you have to keep upgrading it because those things are time limited.
Well, it's
a proof of concept, like it works.
It's now time limited through October 31st, so 10 months is enough for me. I can.
Well, but right, but I mean, a business that's going to buy this because they need that one app or something. I mean, this is not this is not a solution for those guys. Not yet.
Right?
Not yet.
Yeah.
It will be.
But I don't think they pretend it's anything else. I just think the fact that it runs it actually fairly well is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's good. Did you get 8 or 16 gigs of RAM on your Mac?
16.
Yeah. Because
there's no way to upgrade it, so.
Right.
I just maxed everything out because that's what you see is what you get. But I'm going to upgrade all my Macs over time. I think Intel is on Mac is over pretty much.
Sure.
Yeah. You mind taking a little break for a returning sponsor? I almost said a new sponsor, but these guys have been on the show before. We're big fans. They're called Smart Deploy. And actually, if you're a Windows IT guy, you know them, Paul.
I know them well.
Yeah, if you're a Windows IT guy, you probably know the name. I hope I can convince you that this is something you really need. Smart Deploy is pretty awesome. In fact, stay tuned because we have a really good deal. If you've not yet tried Smart Deploy, you're going to want to try it. But let me explain what it is. It's a top-rated IT solution. People all over the world use it to manage on-site and remote endpoints. It's basically, it's the 21st century version of, using Norton Ghost, but it does everything so much better because you build an image that will work on any Windows hardware. In fact, Smart Deploy has a patented system of slipstreaming in the drivers specific to the hardware on that machine. So, you don't have to build, I've got a Lenovo X1 Carbon 3rd generation. That's the image. No, you build an image that's right for your enterprise. And then you can, and now's the time with people working from home, you can install it on a heterogeneous, endpoints, because the drivers are automatic. The layered endpoint architecture lets one image of Windows OS and applications for business work on any Windows hardware. So it's a replacement for the old style monolithic model-specific image, PC image. Smart Deploy provides simplified management of the driver layer, operating system layer, application layer, and user data layer. So each is separate, but efficiently you can set these up completely flexibly. And that's really cool. And it's very easy to manage as well. Deploy, upgrade, and manage any PC in your organization from a single centralized library. It doesn't matter what manufacturer, what model. They have a pre-built driver library, also ensuring every device works as the OEM intended. So it's such a good way to do this. It's, and I'm not alone, consistently receives high performer and easiest to use awards on G2. More than 10 or to 50, or you can manage 10 to 50 or more computer models without any extra time or effort. Streamline your image library with centralized single image management. You get device driver automation, which it handles the driver layer automatically with patented driver injection technology. That is really super cool. Another thing, since we talked about them last, they now integrate with a bunch of cloud services. So you can put your images on OneDrive or Google Drive or Dropbox or Box, which makes it much easier to deliver to your, again, this is, I think, thinking about work from home users, to your users to get those images, those applications, those driver updates to remote and work from home users. They don't even have to be on the corporate network or VPN even into it, which is so great. And the thing is, they might already have your approved Windows install, but maybe they need updates to your approved application base or new data. And all of that can be done individually, independently. It really removes the extra hassle of migration projects. You can deploy third-party applications. Oh, another good thing, patches. It's a great way. I mean, nowadays, you've really got to keep your endpoints up to date. You can apply patches to any computer, zero touch, even without interrupting the end user. It's so cool. This is remote IT automation that you need. You'll save time and effort by running tasks and scripts remotely on any endpoint. You don't have to leave your desk. You're going to feel the immense power surging through your fingertips. It's awesome. Even BIOS updates. How about that? Silent tasks, Windows images, applications. You'll set it up in an hour. No expensive infrastructure to purchase. Nothing, no complicated configuration. No lengthy consulting engagements. They'll consult with you. They got great support. But honestly, you're not going to need it. And you don't have to worry about big, and I know IT people hate this training and drawn out, tedious. Now, let me go to slide 3 and show you. And if you've been using Microsoft SCCM or MDT, Corey R. in Illinois, what a lifesaver. Goodbye, Microsoft SCCM and MDT forever. Built-in best practices. So even if you've got a team of technicians who aren't maybe completely up to speed, you can get it going fast and easy, and they can use Smart Deploy. Smart Deploy is incredible. Now, I promised you an amazing offer. If you've not used Smart Deploy and you're wondering, that sounds good, I really think we need this, they're offering for anybody listening right now a free subscription for up to 15 machines. And not just for a month or a year, but forever. Free subscription, 15 machines. It's enough to, do a work group or just test it out on your systems. It's worth $575, and it's free right now at smartdeploy.com/twit. And again, this is a lifetime offer. So claim it now. Claim it right now. Smartdeploy.com/twit, or you can download a fully functioning trial if you want to try that today. But I would at least, every single person listening here should at least do the subscription. Try it, 15 machines for free, forever. Smart Deploy, SmartDeploy.com/twit. You know them well, Paul. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't mind, I mean, every once in a while, you'll have an ad for a company whose product I actually know really well. And with the caveat that they've sponsored my site before, and you may think that this influences me for some reason. I evaluated this product. You would be insane not to go get this deal.
I know. I know.
Even if you're just a kind of a tech professional or an enthusiast, you could use this on your own machines. 15 PCs, you kidding me?
Yeah,
it's a great product. I would definitely check it out.
I was talking to him the other day.
And look up the stuff I wrote about it a couple of years ago if you want.
Well, that's the thing. I said, well, what's new since you've been on? Because it's been a couple of years. And the fact that you can now use consumer cloud drives, things like OneDrive and stuff, all of this is incredible.
It's seriously in no-brainer territory.
It's so great.
Yes, only every once in a while there's something like this.
Yeah. Yeah, when they told me the offer, I said, no, you're not going to do that. They said, well,
Yeah.
Smartdeploy.com/twit. Smartdeploy.com/twit. Thank you, Smart Deploy. Thank you, by the way. If you want to support Windows Weekly, the best way to do it is to use those addresses. They see it. They know that you saw it here. That's really important to us. Smartdeploy.com/twit. All right. I'm sorry to have interrupted. I was really excited. I couldn't wait to talk about this.
It's for a good cause, Leo.
It's for a good cause. You. Hey, why is Brad Anderson leaving Microsoft? That was a kind of
because he hates us, jerk.
What a shock!
Oh man,
he's so associated with Microsoft.
Everybody was shocked.
He's one of the good guys.
Yeah.
Everybody was shocked. I know. So I think the main reason he's leaving is he really wants to move back to Utah permanently.
Oh. He
and
took a new
Qualtrics-
job, right?
Right. He's going to be president of product and services for Qualtrics. So Qualtrics is like SurveyMonkey, kind of. It does really
that's weird.
advanced survey stuff.
yeah.
They call themselves an experience management company. And they are a subsidiary of SAP. In fact, SAP just filed for an IPO for Qualtrics at the very end of 2020.
There you go.
And so if you look at who runs Qualtrics right now, the CEO is Zig Serafin, who used to work at Microsoft. Julie Larson Green also works for Qualtrics.
What? That's interesting.
Yeah. So there's quite a few Microsoft people who work there. And, Brad Anderson, he'd been at Microsoft for 17 years, almost 18 years. And I think it was just time for him to think, do I want to keep doing this? It's a pandemic. I have all these kids and grandchildren, and they're all in Utah. Do I want to stay in Seattle?
That's why.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is being replaced by somebody we do not know very well.
Is
His name
he though?
Harv
Is he
Bila.
replaceable?
Well, that's a good question. We're going to find out. So Harv Bila, Bhela, who has been the corporate VP of security and compliance for Microsoft 365, is going to take over Brad Anderson's job. So he's kind of going to be the face of of Microsoft 365 commercial, the business side, especially around management experiences like Intune and Config Man. Here's an interesting fact about Harv Bila. He has no social media presence on Twitter and maybe other places either. And
Smart
It's a
man.
little different from Brad
And-
Anderson.
Brad Anderson, who is out there in a huge way. Also, Harv Bila joined Microsoft alongside Terry Myerson. When Terry Myerson's company Intersay was purchased by Microsoft, he came with Terry to Microsoft.
So let me just say this about the new guy. Until you and I have ridden around with him in a convertible in Vegas with a Elvis impersonator
Elvis in the
backseat,
background?
he is no Brad Anderson. That's all I'm saying.
He's got
a high
some big
bar.
shoes to fill.
Yeah.
He does. He does. Yep.
He
No,
looks-
but if you watch the reaction about Brad Anderson
Yeah, it's a
leaving, no
shock.
one could believe it, and
Yeah.
everyone was sad. Like I didn't see anyone going like, "Good, finally that guy's out of here." Nobody
Yeah,
said
that jerk is out of here. No, he's so smart and so great, and
Yeah.
he was
was-
such a great presence for Microsoft.
What,
I think,
he was a senior vice
facing the
president.
world.
What was his portfolio?
So he joined Microsoft from Novell 17 years
wow.
ago. Yep. And he kind of rose through the ranks. He was in charge of System Center, then Configuration Manager and Intune. And he was really known as the guy who kind of simplified and help revise how you do commercial deployments and management of Windows. Like that's his
Yeah, and
portfolio,
also
pretty
devices,
much.
right? Like mobile devices.
And devices. Yep. Yeah, so he was like the commercial guy. Whenever you were thinking, who's the Windows 10 face of Windows 10 commercial? I always thought of Brad
yeah,
Anderson, right?
Right.
So-
they kind of pulled this stuff in. I mean, System Center was always something next to Windows Server back in the
Right.
day, and then Intune
Yeah.
was kind of the cloud-based device, or
Yep.
I guess in the beginning it was probably just PC-based management product, and those have kind of combined, and now they're part of Microsoft 365. And he was, I mean, he was one of the big faces of Microsoft 365 for sure.
Yeah. He had Paul and I both on his show. He did a show called The Ship Room, where he interviewed people in the tech industry. And he never made it boring. Like instead of just having you like say, hey, let's talk about customer stories or trends.
It was like
right?
being stalked.
It was.
He was like, this is like the hunter becomes the hunted when he started. He's like,
I
I've been
know.
researching you, Paul, and
yeah.
I discovered you're like, yeah. What's going on here?
No, and he'd always like turn the tables on you, and he'd do all these funny questions for you. Like it wasn't just like, oh, what do you think is important on Windows? It'd be like, Mary Jo, what is your favorite dessert topping on hot fudge sundaes?
right.
Like, it would
One of
be,
his
and you'd be
questions
just
is
like,
something
what?
like, he's like back in 2005, you said this about my product.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I
Sorry
know.
about that.
He had me the last time he had me on the ship room. I had just broken a story about Microsoft Managed Desktop before they had announced it, right? And so that was one of his products. And so
Right, the windows
he had
went
me
up,
on.
the doors locked.
It was kind of like that because I sat down and he's like, "Hey, so Managed Desktop." I'm like, "Yeah, I was glad I got to help you announce that product." And I just was watching his face, and he handed me this glove, and he's like, "Put this on," and I'm like, "What's in it?" And he goes, "I can't tell you." And I thought he was going to tase me on the air. I
It's
really
like
did. I was like,
Yep.
I'm like, "Should I put this on?" And he's like, "No, I won't hurt
Brad
you."
Anderson was the guy who showed up at, I don't know if it was Ignite by that point or if it was still Tech. I think it was Ignite. But, the whole James Bond beginning with the video and everything. It's just good stuff.
I know. So yeah, I was sad. And the way he broke the news too, he put it on LinkedIn and he just said, "Yeah, I'm leaving Microsoft. It's been a tough decision." And I'm like, wait, did he just tell the world he's leaving on LinkedIn?
Yeah, on LinkedIn, yeah.
Well, isn't that where
know.
you would do it? Now, come on.
I guess. I mean, he had barely announced it internally. Like most people inside didn't even know he was leaving.
Don't you usually go to LinkedIn and say, "I'm thinking about leaving Microsoft. If anyone out there has any career ideas."
Let me post my resume here.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's my CV.
If you don't know me,
Like Novell, Microsoft, yeah, maybe.
yeah, I know. I have to say, I was surprised and not in a good way about.
He seemed like a Microsoft diehard, that he would be around forever.
I know, right?
Huh.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Qualtrics is kind of one of the hot new places to go. Not just because
The
they
new
just
Amazon?
IPO'd. I don't know if I call them the new Amazon, but
Well, in the sense that a lot of people from Microsoft would leave and go to
Oh, okay.
Amazon. Now they're going to Qualtrics.
yeah. Who knew SAP was a hotspot?
Okay.
The world
fine.
has been turned on its head.
Leave this, Brad. It's fine.
Okay, there's our shock and awe moment. We got to have one every show.
I know, right? Yep.
This headline kind of surprised me. Microsoft is finalizing its transition to Azure. What?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
This was also a shock and awe story, I hope, since I wrote it. But
Good. Yep.
So, here's a funny thing. This is why Microsoft hates that I'm still around. I'm just going to say. So 10 years ago or more, Microsoft kept talking about moving Office 365 to Azure. And every time I would do an interview with someone, I'm like, "How's that going? Moving Office 365 to Azure?" And they'd be like, "Great, it's going great." I'm like, "Has it happened?" No. Every year I'd ask them, like, "How's it going? Bringing Office 365 to Azure. Has it happened yet?" No, it still hasn't happened. 5 years ago, I found a job posting on Microsoft Careers site that said they were moving all of their first-party services to Azure. And I thought, wait, this still hasn't happened. It means Office 365 isn't on Azure, right? And neither were a lot of other things too, to be honest. Like Bing has not traditionally run on Azure. They run in Microsoft data centers, but they don't run on Azure, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, right? But in some ways, some of these services preceded Azure. Like Bing, I think, probably preceded Azure. And so they didn't actually when it came out, they didn't have Azure there to host it. Xbox Live, also not hosted on Azure, which, Microsoft kind of covered that up quite a bit, but that was not hosted on Azure.
It's really hard to leave FreeBSD, and I think...
Yeah, it's tough,
He's teasing. He's teasing.
But here's the update on this. So I got a quote from Mark Rusinovich, who, if anybody should know, he should know. He's the CTO of Azure, right? And he said most of the Microsoft 365 services now are running primarily on Azure today, but some things like the mailbox storage for Exchange and Outlook.com are still not yet hosted on Azure, but we're closing in on it and we're getting really close to being able to say everything is on Azure. Paul, you sound like you're going to say something.
I'm trying to restrain myself. I'm sorry.
Okay, I know. Okay, so here's the thing. Like you may say, why should anybody who doesn't work at Microsoft care if this stuff is on Azure? Right? There's a lot of reasons to care. If you're Microsoft, one reason is cost savings. If all of your services are on a common platform, it helps you reduce your cost of goods, right? It makes it easier to update services, introduce new services. Like if you look at all the new services Microsoft is building, like Windows Virtual Desktop, xCloud, Teams, they were built from the start to be Azure hosted services. When you have everything on a common infrastructure platform, it makes it easier to use things across the platform, right? So if you have things like the graph that you want to take advantage of across your product line or a common store, object store, it's way easier to do that if everything is on the same common back end. And as a customer, I would guess this would benefit you in terms of Microsoft being able to build things, update things, and deploy and fix things faster if everything is on a common back end. That's why you should care. Even you, Paul Thurrott.
Why? They could just say that they're on a common back end now. Who would know?
That's what they do. They do say that. No, they say that in blog posts all the time. Like everything's running on Azure. And every time I'd see that statement, I'm like, but is it? Is it really?
Yeah. So I joked about FreeBSD earlier, but that was because, remember Hotmail ran on FreeBSD for many years after Microsoft bought it. So
and then
sometimes
Skype also. What was the deal with Skype? Skype had some weird thing where it wasn't running. It was running on Linux, I think, when they bought Skype, wasn't it?
And Skype, the client, was originally written in Delphi.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yep. Wow. Those are the good old days.
Yeah.
Everything with Delphi was good.
When there was a Bible, when there was a guy updating the Bible.
Super. It wasn't just the Bible. It was a super Bible.
That's right.
Super Bible.
I had a super site and I had a super Bible. See how that works?
A super site for Windows.
I do.
Oh, you were Mr. Super. Were you a super in the Schneider sense or the Superman sense? That's the question.
Oh, like superintendent, like Schneider from One Day at a Time?
Yeah,
was that what that reference was?
Yes.
Nice. I'm probably more like that guy than probably more like Schneider than like Super.
Yeah.
Super Schneider.
Schneider.
Nice.
Remember? He had the keys.
Yeah, no, I love that guy with the tight little mustache.
Yeah, little mustache. He always had his.
I think that is Paul. That is Paul.
That's going to be my new look. I'll put like a cigarette. Yeah, because I can put a cigarette in my shoulder.
Yeah, there you go.
Boy, that is
is that what you meant by Schneider?
It is. It's a very obscure reference.
Yeah, no, that's good.
One day.
But you got it. Yeah. He got it though.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about Schneider in a long time. That's funny.
Micah says apparently I talk about that a lot. I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh, that's good.
I guess I'm starting to. I've gotten to the point where now
for someone to understand what I'm talking about.
I'm repeating myself. Ancient
someone's like, "Oh, I know what you mean."
Yeah,
that's actually.
Did Micah
really
even know that show? Come on, had Micah even watched that show?
He's
too young.
Born.
Exactly.
There's a new version of it on some cable channel.
Yeah, they brought it back.
Yeah.
There must be a. Is there a modern show?
I liked Bonnie Franklin. That was. That was a good show. Well, anyway, I don't. Nobody remembers that.
We do, sadly.
I remember it very fondly.
Yeah, Micah said you had to show me the video because I never had heard of him.
See? I knew it.
Valerie Bertinelli was on that
Valerie
show.
Bertinelli.
Oh, man.
And who was the tall sister?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember.
She was famous too.
Mackenzie
Phillips, yes.
Mackenzie.
She was the mama's and the papa's daughter. Yeah,
exactly. The daughter of Michelle
Phillips. Yeah.
Yep.
Gosh, that was a good show.
and then JJ. Oh wait,
guys, we had married with Windows last week. Are we going to do a TV reference?
Yeah, we should. Every show title from now on will be a reference to an old TV show.
One telemetry at a time.
Okay, that's the title. I'm sorry.
There it is.
That's it.
Oh boy.
Microsoft rolls out. Are we done with Azure? Are we done talking about that?
But let me just talk about one more Azure-related thing, okay?
Yes.
Very quickly. So Microsoft has these things called vertical clouds, which are bundles of things they put together that include Azure, Office 365, Dynamics 365, Power Platform, and they mush them all together and they wrap them up with some templates and they call them vertical clouds. So they made one of these for healthcare so that they could sell this whole integrated set of Microsoft backend services to healthcare companies, and they could use them end to end. Well, today they introduced the second one of these so-called vertical clouds, and it's for retail. It's the same idea. You take a little Azure, a little Microsoft 365, little Dynamics, roll it all together into a ball, and then you throw it out there as a vertical cloud and sell it to people as an add-on to their backend cloud services. You charge them per user per month. Healthcare cloud costs $95 per user per month. So it's a nice little upsell side revenue chain for Microsoft. And there will be more of these. So keep your ears peeled for these vertical clouds. It's a new thing.
I like how you made it like a recipe.
Mix in
Put
a little
it on a cookie
oil,
sheet
little
on low
water.
heat.
Here's how you make a vertical cloud.
Put it on your Silpat, your little mat for
Sometimes
making
when
cookies.
two Microsoft services really love one another, they get together.
Remember
and
that?
They make a new
Okay,
vertical
do you remember
cloud.
that? The book
what?
Microsoft did for Windows Server. Do you remember that? They had a little Windows Server in the house or something.
What?
There's a little book about...
that was the home server.
Do you remember
that was
that?
the home server.
Home server. Yeah.
I still have that around
When
here
two
somewhere.
servers love each other very much.
Oh, was that
They
in there?
actually said that? Wow.
I don't know. I don't know if they said that, but it was kind of...
It looked like that kind of book, for sure.
It
was
did
a
look like
children's
that kind of book.
In fact,
It was like Goodnight Moon, except for servers, right?
yeah.
Wow. Good night, server. Good night. Good night, Exchange.
We're showing our age here with all our
night,
references
Azure.
to things.
All the youngins are going, I'm not going to listen to this show anymore. They're all
They're like,
old.
Yeah, what's going on here?
they're
It's like,
talking about,
it's like
like-
watching people
Yeah.
at a porch mumble at each other.
And then I said,
And then they invented electricity.
Right. And we were here for it.
Oy.
Yep. My son asked me if the world was black and white when I was a kid.
No.
But yeah, Elsie used to ask me that all the time. My stepdaughter, she's like, was there color like when you
You're
guys
precious.
were
Go
kids?
play in the yard.
What? They were 3 or something, right?
Yeah. No, it wasn't last week. It was like when he was a kid.
It was last week. It was a Christmas break.
Yeah.
You try to make him watch, movies that are in black and white. You think he'll like the original King Kong or something.
What did you do
And
in the war,
it's just
Daddy?
like I can't. I saw Jurassic Park. What am I looking at? You know?
Xbox time. Do you want to take a break, Mary Jo? Go feed your cat.
right.
Hold
Have
on
a
a second.
beer.
Hold on a second.
No?
I'm good.
What?
Hold on a second.
What?
First of all,
There's only a couple.
I wish
right?
there were 13 items here, but there's really nothing.
Okay.
So this is the easiest Xbox segment of the year.
Excellent.
It's only the second show of the year, but of the past year, let's say. Sometime last week there was a story. I think it generated out of it was a UK-based tech blog that Microsoft. The reason Microsoft controllers, Xbox controllers, still have AA batteries is because Microsoft has what he called a constant agreement with Duracell. And the source of this information was a Duracell marketing manager in the United Kingdom. Microsoft says that this is not true. And it is true, by the way, that the Xbox 360, which was the first Xbox console to have wireless controllers, and the Xbox One, all 3 versions, and now Xbox Series X and S do come with Duracell batteries, and
What?
the controller compartment fits 2
hysterical.
AA batteries.
That's hysterical.
Yeah. So my theory is that it's mostly to save money because what they could be putting in there is something they sell for about $30, which is a rechargeable battery pack that is in the shape of 2, Duracell batteries. In fact, I can just show you one. I don't know. To me, like this should just be included, but this is what the little battery. It's the size of 2 AA batteries,
Oh, yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
and that's fine, right? It's fine. And as some people had pointed out to me, there are some benefits to the battery thing because, in the future, especially when these things have long come and gone, we'll always have AA batteries that can power these things. And these battery packs may have disappeared by that point or whatever. And okay, I guess, but at least it's an option. Anyway, Duracell, not really a thing, but every controller I've ever got has had an Xbox or a Duracell
That's really
controller
interesting.
or
Yeah.
battery. Yeah.
I really like rechargeables, so I will put rechargeable
Yeah.
and replace it with
Oh, it's the first thing I
rechargeables.
bought when I got the new consoles was the battery packs.
Yeah. It's just best way to go. And I guess that's why they put it in the pack, so you have the option.
At least you have something. you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Duracellgate, it's not a thing.
Not a fake news.
Fake.
Stamp that one with fake news.
Yeah. And
this is even bigger news. I guess there is a new Xbox controller, and it's red. And
ooh, I like red. I only use red. Red is my color.
Obviously, there's black and white, and then there's also a blue color, which Microsoft calls shock blue. Those have been available, I think, since the launch, essentially.
Shocking.
The red version is actually a combination of colors. It's red on the front, white on the back, and then some of the controller bits, like the bumpers and so forth, are black. It's actually really cool looking, but Microsoft, oh God, I just forgot the name of it. Microsoft has a program online where you can design your own controller, and you can have different color parts and all that stuff, remember? They put that on pause last fall in anticipation of the new controllers, and sometime in the next couple of months, that's going to come back online. So if you want to design a controller like this, but with different colors, different color parts, that will soon be possible as well. But anyway, in the meantime, I think they're going to release, specialty controllers like this every once in a while just to keep people happy.
Happy.
People like Mary Jo.
Happy people.
Red, white, and blue.
Oh, I like
red, white, and black.
Lisa, if it's not red, Lisa won't buy it. So that's good.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, there's one for her. It's nice.
There's one for every user.
That's right.
Yes.
Very inclusive over at Xbox.
Yes. All right. That's good. You've done it. Now we can proceed to the back of the book with our tip of the week. Paul Thurrott begins.
So last week, I think, I talked about file management. I looked at, I've since written about photo management, which it was interesting to me, even though I lived through it, to realize I did the same thing with photos I did with files, and then it changed over time because of cloud storage, right? So back in the day, especially before we had digital cameras or cameras in smartphones and so forth, the only way to get a computer into a photo into a computer was to scan it, and then you have the problem where all the metadata for that thing is from the time that you scanned it, not from the date that the photo was taken. So there's a lot that kind of goes into tagging and getting the metadata correct if you can, and then organizing it and so forth. But it's interesting to me that my old photos are all very like OCD, like, there's a folder with the year, there's a folder with a year-based name for whatever the event is. They're all alphabetically and chronologically in order in the folder, and as you import the photos, you name them a certain way, and hopefully that helps you find things. But since 2013, when I got the Nokia Lumia 1020, I've been using smartphones for photos, and that changes things dramatically because now you can back up automatically to the cloud. And I do that to OneDrive and Google, but that's my own choice. I mean, people could choose Amazon or Dropbox or whatever you want to use, I guess, obviously, but that stuff seems to work well for me. So once again, Mary Jo, I'd like to put you on the spot because I'm curious. You don't seem like the type of person who would have spent any time scanning in old photos. I don't mean to overgeneralize, but yeah.
Nope, you know me very well.
Really? You don't believe in that, huh?
No, when I looked at Paul's post on this again, I was like, are you kidding me?
Right.
So here's my photo management strategy. I don't have one at all, like even less than my document management strategy.
Shocking.
So I take photos on my smartphone and I upload them to Google Photos. Well, I just have it automatically upload to Google Photos.
Yep.
Sometimes I back this up to OneDrive. Sometimes I don't. I don't have any old photos. Like if you came into my apartment right now, there are no photos in my apartment of people anywhere in here, except for the one photo my niece makes me keep on the table of her wedding. But other than that,
she makes you.
Yeah, she's like, you have that photo still, right? It's out, isn't it? You're like,
does she come over a lot?
No, when she does though, she's like, okay, good, it's still here. You didn't throw it away. So I'm not a big photo person. I don't know. The other members of my family do a lot of photo uploading and scanning, and they always are finding embarrassing new photos of all of us as kids and posting them on Facebook,
great.
which is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, and
okay,
I don't really care that much about photos.
Yeah.
I don't really care that much about photos, and it's terrible. I should care more.
No.
Like I have so many photos of when I went to Japan, and I've never looked at them since I've come back ever.
Wow.
Like never.
Too busy?
No, just I don't know. Like I just don't think about it. I just never think about it. I don't know.
I didn't mean to.
It's not her thing, man.
It's really like everybody else in my family, I feel like likes to document things in photos a lot, and they care a lot about having photos. Like, oh, let's take pictures, and I'm like, really? Okay, I just don't think about it that much.
I do wonder with my kids, because they grew up with me, unfortunately for them, there are probably 10,000 photos of each of these children, and will they ever want those, And I bet they'll want 3 or 4 of them.
I know. My mom's always saying that to us. Come and get all these pictures I've got in the house. I don't want them. Yeah. And she's like, don't you want some of these? I'm like, no. What am I going to do with them?
Right. In a way, I know I do all this, and Paul, I do all this, and I have close to 100,000 photos.
Wow. Sure. Do you really?
Well, but here's the bad news. After I'm gone, nobody's going to look at those.
That's true. By the way, that is true, except for one thing. So I mention this from time to time. A couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago, whatever it was, we got one of those Google Smart Displays, Lenovo, but running on Google Assistant. Don't use it for anything, right? Other than it's a photo slideshow.
That's what I use it for. Yeah.
So Google Photo, all my photos are in Google Photos. You basically make it's like a smart folder, or virtual folder or something, and it's the one I chose was just our family, like everyone in our family, and I put our pets in there because I know that people, my wife or my kids will like that, but. And it sits there all day, and it rotates through pictures from our entire life, And there are photos. It's a source of conversation. We'll be standing there in the kitchen doing something, and some photo will come up, and Stephanie will say, "Do you have any idea when that's from?" And I usually do, but you can ask it when it's from, or where it was taken, or what date it was taken, that kind of thing. And what I'm hoping is that my kids, because they're exposed to this, they may want that, somehow, that I can give them this digital dump of all these photos. And do my kids want pictures of, when I was a teenager or something? Yeah, probably not, right? I mean, why would they? But it's there if they want it. And
no, I feel like I'm weird. I feel like I'm weird in that I don't care about this, because I think most people do care, and that people really love looking at older photos and all that. Like the one thing I have a million photos of, not surprisingly, are my cat Sriracha, but
and beer glasses.
See,
and beer glasses, right?
But,
and beer glasses.
But I'm not suggesting
not
you
beer goggles, folks. Beer glasses. No. There's a difference.
Exactly.
But did I say goggles?
No, she did. She said glasses, but I wanted to be very clear what we were talking about.
I mean mugs. Mugs
is better.
Glasses full of beer. Yes. So I mean, I feel like if you had this and it was your photos, or your family's photos or something, I bet you would enjoy that.
A handful. Yeah. So a handful. Yeah. So that's the thing. You and really, this is the problem. I don't know, Paul, how good you are at pruning, but
let me tell you the hilarity that occurs every time a picture of me with a former girlfriend comes up.
Oh, you're not good at pruning at all.
Well, my wife is making dinner. So it's hard sometimes because the queries that result in the photo slideshow, because there's like 20,000 photos in this thing, are just based on, I'm in the picture, so it could be something stupid, right, from the past. I suppose I could cut it down or whatever. You can do a better job, but I because I set it to only show people like in our family and then the pets, it's somewhat pruned, right? There isn't going to be like a blurry halfway side shot of like a curb or something because there's no person there. So at least it's pruned in that way.
Yeah. I just feel like really all my kids are going to want is about a dozen photographs.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Not 100,000.
Well, here's the 100,000. You can pick the 12 you want.
Yeah, you pick the 12. There's one section, I guess I brought a camera to one of Henry's high school lacrosse games, but there's 500 pictures of Henry playing lacrosse.
Oh, man.
Yes.
And I'm sure 1 or 2 of those he'll want.
Yeah, or epic.
Yeah.
Or epic. But the rest, and it really would, maybe when I retire, I'll spend some time going through.
I know. It takes so much time to manage it.
It's a lot of work.
Right?
Well, that's what Paul's talking about.
It is. It's never-ending work. And one of the problems with the work is that it's
Thankless.
requires time and effort.
Thankless.
Like in my case, I take pictures of laptops and phones. So
you get rid of
interspersed
those.
with my personal photos are
Yeah.
nonsense shots of nothing. Right.
Right.
So shots that have to be rotated, or shots that have to be correctly tagged so they have the right date, right? Not maybe the date they were scanned or something.
Yeah.
You could turn this into a career if you could find out a way to monetize it. I mean, you could just do it forever.
Yeah, totally. I'm just scared when Google changes the limit on Google Photos, which is coming up. What I'm going to have to do.
Their prices are so
make
reasonable
something
for
happen.
storage. I have no concerns there.
Doesn't matter.
By the way, if you have Amazon Prime
I do.
or Amazon has unlimited photo storage.
Oh,
Put
okay.
photos there. OneDrive, terabyte should be enough
More
storage
than
for
enough.
anybody for the rest of for some time. But you can buy extra storage there too if you want.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I love it. In the notes, it says, let's look at photo management. And Paul writes that, and then he writes, MJ? ?
And there's nothing there.
Mary Jo, you just write no. No, you just write no.
No, if Mary
I was
Jo
just going to put
contacted me-
really? I was going to put really?
Well, I didn't. Okay, so she never talked about it with me, but I
Now
put it
we
there
know.
because
Yeah.
if she didn't want to talk about this, she
Yeah.
could have told me, and I wouldn't have ever thrown it in
No.
her direction.
No.
Right.
I just
glad you
laugh
did.
because we're the opposite ends of the spectrum again on this. Like we're the odd couple. We're
No,
Felix
but I think
and
that's
Oscar,
but
right?
that's actually part of the reason I wanted you to talk about it, not to to make fun of you or whatever. Although obviously I'm always online for that.
Obviously you will in the
but-
future. But.
Yeah, no, but I mean, no, because we do approach these things very differently, and I think
We do.
I think it's interesting just to hear how different people do it.
Yeah. I have no strategy. You have an OCD strategy. It's the full spectrum.
I think we can all agree I have some problems that I'm working through.
You do. But you know what? You at least know where
perfect.
all your files are. They're right where you left
They're
them.
right where,
They're right where I left them.
Thank
In
God.
3 different places, geographically diverse.
App pick of the week, Mr. T.
Yeah, so I talk a lot about the ability to run PWAs and other web apps, and also just web pages, really, as applications or pseudo applications in Windows and probably on the Mac and elsewhere. But all the major browsers, Chrome and Edge and Brave and whatever, support this, or most of them do. Oddly, Mozilla Firefox was actually the first one to ever support this kind of thing a million years ago. It was probably 10, maybe 15 years ago. They had a technology called Prism, which basically took a web page out of that browser surrounding Chrome, the UI, and kind of provided a plain window so you could use it like an app. And then eventually they got rid of it. But modern versions of Firefox support I'm going to call it a pre-release feature that is very much like Prism, or very much like those features that are in other browsers that allow you to, bring up a web page or a web app or whatever and say, I want to put this in its own window. And you can, in app mode, they call it. And then it installs it as an app on your computer. So just like Chrome and Edge and so forth. So it's not enabled by default. You have to go into the About Config interface, search for the right feature, which is browser.ssb.enabled. SSB must be, what is that? Site something.
Single sideband.
Site-specific browser.
Site-specific browser.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a mini version of Firefox just for that site. Standalone window, basically. And if you're familiar with how PWAs and other web apps and sites work on Chrome or Edge, it's very, very much like that. So if you happen to prefer Firefox, or if this is the one thing that was keeping you off Firefox, you might want to just take a look because it's available. It's not right there in the UI. Hopefully it will be someday. But they've been testing it, I guess, since last year.
Nice.
It does work.
App of the week. Oh, you already said that. Never mind. Forget I said anything. We're now shifting to Mary Jo Foley and her enterprise pick of the week.
Yes, so the enterprise pick has to do with Microsoft increasing the upload size for files in SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive. So right now, this limit is 100 gigs. And Microsoft is going to be increasing this to 250 gigs. And the reason they're doing this, they say, it's so you can upload and easily share large files. Like, when you want to share a 3D model of a new building. or an 8K video client commercial shot, or perhaps a large data set for vaccine trials. So obviously, in hearing these examples, this is for business customers, not for consumers. This is for Microsoft 365 commercial. I had to ask Microsoft, Paul and I, before the show, we're putting our heads together, reading Microsoft blog posts, trying to figure out if this was for all customers or just commercial. And Microsoft came back and said the answer is just for Microsoft 365 commercial customers.
Okay.
So this is going to happen. Let's see. It's starting to roll out at the end of January and will reach general availability by the end of this quarter. So you'll be able to upload those really gigantic files.
Nice.
Yes.
250 gigabytes.
Yeah. It's a pretty big file.
That's big. That's big. I mean,
It's like my Christmas video every year.
yeah, honestly, yeah, I guess you could put
It's not the biggest file, right?
No.
Like video files are massive,
Yeah.
right?
You could put a compressed movie up there.
Yeah.
But they don't probably want to make it so big that people are tempted to do a lot.
They
of
don't.
I'm going to archive my ripped DVD collection
Exactly.
to OneDrive for Business.
Exactly.
Yeah, probably not.
I love the code name of the week. I don't know what it means, but I love it.
So Codename is Project Peabody.
Oh, and
And-
you're saying it like the Peabody family in Boston.
Are you
likes to
thinking
say it.
Peabody?
Yeah. I was thinking,
Like underdog Peabody?
yes. That's exactly.
Oh,
Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
We're like channeling each other's brain today,
Mr.
Leo.
Peabody. Hazel Dome.
Yep.
so I don't know how they pronounce it. I could be that Peabody or Peabody. It could
Everybody
be either way.
outside of Boston thinks it's pronounced Peabody. But in Boston, because,
You say
it's,
Peabody.
It's Peabody. Peabody.
What do
Yeah.
they think Worcester's
Yeah.
pronounced like outside of
Oh,
Boston?
Yeah,
they have
well, let's not even
Worcestershire
ask.
sister. They have no
Or
idea.
Gloucester. Yeah, there's so many towns
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, back to Peabody.
Back to
Or
Peabody.
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 Sorry.
I like Peabody. Peabody.
Project Peabody is the code name for holoportation. Remember when Microsoft was doing all this work around HoloLens and holoportation? Yeah. At the time when I was writing about this, I never heard that code name. But the Walking Cat this weekend put up a code name, Bell's Beach. And he said, Mary Jo Foley, what is this? So, of course, I've been trying to crack what that was. Bell's Beach is a place in Australia, I believe. And we were going back and forth, and I said, what does it have to do with? And he said, maybe HoloLens, maybe holoportation. And so I started doing a lot of research again on holoportation. And then I found out all the work Microsoft did back around 2016, 2017 with holoportation was codenamed Project Peabody, which I didn't know at the time. But that made me kind of keep going and digging. And I found out on January 27th this year, there's going to be a HoloLens Industry Summit. And there's a whole agenda on the web. You can look it up. It's just look up for HoloLens Industry Summit, and you'll find the link. I believe anybody can register for this. There's a lot of information around how HoloLens is used in vertical industries, but it makes me wonder if there is more, like if there's going to be some actual HoloLens news. And maybe that's why the whole Bell's Beach thing happened. You can see how my mind works very weirdly when I'm like looking for a code name. But that's kind of what was my research process around this and how I found out about Project Peabody. And here's another interesting factoid or fact. Factoids mean not true. Fact is true.
Thank you.
Fact, yes. Paul, that's a pet peeve of Mr. Paul. So I know. Interesting fact, the people who were involved, a couple of the people involved in Project Peabody went on to work on Project Natick. Project Natick was Microsoft putting the undersea Azure data centers like in these things that looked like subs and submerging them to try to test if you could actually operate a data center in the water. So I don't know if there's any connection between Peabody and Natick. I just thought it was interesting that some of those people who worked on Peabody went on to work on Natick. And both of these are Massachusetts towns.
Huh.
Right?
Peabody
Yep,
and
that's
Natick.
true.
Yep.
Yep. So many weird, fun
it's
things.
no
when you're researching
Ashland
a code
or
name.
Manchester by the
It's
Sea,
not.
but, whatever.
I know, but still.
What do you know of Manchester by the Sea?
What don't I know about it?
Really?
Oh,
My in-laws used to have a compound there.
Jeez. I think you can only have a compound there.
Yeah, we
Was it next to the Kennedy compound?
Well, it was McGeorge Bundy, who was Kennedy's national security advisor. So probably it was nearby. They had their own beach, many houses. They've sold it off, but it was really fun.
Yeah.
I only stayed there once.
I think everyone who lives in Manchester gets their own
It's
beach.
beautiful.
That's one of
It's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was kind of like a Kennedy-like compound. Yeah, multiple houses and all.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, it was cool.
just like Dedham.
Nice.
Oh wait,
I remember we
Yeah.
went to his New York apartment once, and he had on the coffee table this kind of interesting wooden sculpture, and it looked like a month in October. And I said, "Oh, that's cool. What is that?" He said, "That was the 13 days of the Cuban Missile Crisis. JFK gave that to all of us
Oh man.
as a memento."
that's
And it was
amazing.
like,
Wow.
oh my God.
That's an original copy of
wow.
the Constitution.
Yeah, it's just nothing, no big.
I should probably get it framed. I don't know.
It was like I really was in awe, Just
You
in
threw it
awe.
into your backpack and
Oh, no,
ran
no,
off,
no.
right?
It was very respectful, very respectful. I think you two have earned a beer. I don't know if this is the one you want, but it's the beer you get.
It is. Three Floyds Brewing, very famous in Indiana. They are starting to distribute their beers more widely, and there's one called Gumball Head that is now available in more places than just the Chicago and Indiana area. I got to try it. I've had it before once when I was in Chicago, but this weekend I saw it was on tap near me, and so I ventured out into the 30-degree
Look at
weather.
you out in the world.
And I went outside and had a beer outside with my
Nice.
mittens and hat and gloves.
Nice.
I checked
so
it in on
cute.
Untapped.
And by
So
the
what
way, when
Gumball
you
Head
did,
is-
you earned the middle of the road badge.
I did, because it's not that high of an ABV
Right,
beer.
right.
Oh,
because it's
okay.
that's what that means basically.
And you're level 92, which means you've done that a lot.
Which is
I've done that once or
the
twice.
high priestess of the beer world.
Yeah.
That's like Prestige 92 is pretty high.
Is it Master Prestige?
Yeah,
and,
pretty
Untapped?
high.
No, so this is a beer I think many people would like. It's not too hoppy. It's 5.6%. It's a wheat ale. So, if you like wheat beers, you probably like it. But what makes it more interesting to me is it's also hoppy. It's dry hopped, and it uses hops from the Yakima Valley area in Washington State, which gives it kind of a lemony and more citrusy finish.
Good.
Gumball
Sounds good.
Head.
I hate the name.
It's very nice.
It doesn't taste like
It
gumball.
seems like a sequel to Cuphead.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why
yeah.
Mary Jo likes it.
Well, in their beer label, they show you a gumball machine.
Wow. Okay.
Because a lot of people think it tastes like cotton candy and all these kinds of flavors. For me, it tastes citrusy. It tastes citrusy to me, not cottony or sweet.
Maybe they should throw a gumball in there as like a
Just
A
like
little
when you have a
prize
cocktail.
like
inside.
Guinness, like Guinness does with its little
Yeah.
metal shaker
Yeah,
ball.
yeah. It's pretty good. If you like a lighter kind of a weedy ale, but you still want some real good hop flavor, I would recommend it. Oh, there's a new can. The can has a different little face on it. And
This
stuff.
guy's it's like a cat smoking a cigarette. I don't know what that means at all.
So that's the new Gumball Head can, I guess.
I guess. I don't know.
it's an angry
Here's a
can.
bottle. Same thing.
Yeah, see on their logo over to the left of where somebody said "so Gumby."
Oh boy. So Gumby.
Yeah,
Might be a dog.
Is it a dog? Maybe it's a dog.
he
It's a
might be a
weird-looking
dog.
animal, whatever it is.
Something. And what's FFF stand for? I don't know. It's an astronaut.
Three Floyds,
Feline
guys.
friends
Three
forever.
Floyds.
Three Floyds.
It's an astronaut dog.
An astronaut dog.
So Paul will appreciate this. You know who we know who has a very tight connection to Three Floyds is Stephen Rose.
Stephen Rose?
Oh.
Yeah.
I believe
Is
he might
does
have been
he-
an investor in. Three
Okay, is this the one?
Floyds
Because I know he did invest in
Yeah.
a. Okay, this is
Yeah.
the one. Okay.
It's Three Floyds. Yep. So
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
he even sent me a special beer glass from Three
Nice.
Floyds, which is like a collector's item. But
Nice.
yeah,
He's going to retire.
we're not supposed to
in this
take
company, I
graft
bet.
from Microsoft, but I took that.
That you can take. How much is that?
Well, this is like the 7
lot.
degrees of Mary Jo Foley.
It is. It's like, I won't take your Surface PC, but, a gumball
I will
head
take
glass?
the beer glass.
Okay.
Oh, you get a beer glass? Yeah, I'll take that.
I've been
I
wondering.
don't think ZD has any rules about that.
Is the Mary Jo
No.
Foley mug still hanging at Rattle and Hum? Do you know?
Oh, boy.
No, because Rattle and Hum closed permanently.
But didn't they move the mugs to the new location?
They did, and the new one closed also. So they gave me my mug, and I have it at home.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So they're gone for
Mary
good.
Jo, I have a question for you on that topic. Someday, of course,
Yeah.
I will come back to New York.
Yes.
What the hell are we going to do? What are we going to do?
So there are a
Where we
few
going?
beer bars that have hung on, but not many. I know. So the Rattle and Hum that we went to in Times Square, they said they're closed for now, but I think they laid everyone off, so I think it's pretty
Yeah,
much
yeah.
they're closed. Yeah.
Wow.
We'll find new
That's
places,
so
and
sad.
hopefully they're going to reopen somewhere else.
It
when
makes me
the pandemic's over.
sad. It just makes me
Yeah,
sad.
they couldn't really
That
stay in
guy,
business
the
because
owner-
nobody's there. Nobody's in
Doesn't
Times
he
Square.
have does he still have a place down in Florida?
Yeah, he doesn't have the bar in Florida, but he goes to Florida all the time. Yeah.
Oh, but he
sold
had
that
one,
place.
didn't he? Oh, he did.
Yeah, called Rattle and Hum. Yep, he sold that.
Ah, great. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, right now Rattle and Hum is gone. Our clubhouse. I know. Yeah. Yeah. See what happens when you don't come to New York all the time.
So
Paul?
they're
the bar closes.
What are they doing? What are they going to do? I mean,
I think when the pandemic's over, they're going to see where do businesses reopen, because right now Times Square is just a ghost town, and
Right.
all the businesses around there are closed.
Do you think this will help with the rent prices and whatnot? Are they gonna-
rents in San Francisco
In
are
theory.
down like 30%. No, it will.
Yeah, they're not down much in New York. They're down a little bit, but not much.
Maybe that's
here.
what needs to happen before these guys come back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the commercial rents. Yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That big office, Microsoft in Times Square, that's like empty right now. That giant office they have.
Right.
I was watching Annie Anaka recommended, and I watched it last night. A wonderful show on Netflix about New York City. Do you get Netflix, Mary Jo? Maybe I'm.
Yeah. Oh, the one with what's
Fran
her name?
Lebowitz.
Right?
Do they have
Yes.
Netflix in New York City, Mary Jo?
Yeah. You know what?
Is it the Fran
we do have
Lebowitz
that.
thing?
Yeah.
Fran Lebowitz. Yes.
Awesome. It's called Pretend It's a City. And
Yeah.
that's her
But that
answer.
was before the pandemic, right? Before the pandemic.
Martin Scorsese shot it at a number of. She
Yeah.
does a lot of public speaking. She's a humorist and writer.
Yeah.
Does a lot of public speaking, and then he shot various other locations of her walking around.
Yeah.
Nobody's wearing masks, so I have to think it was shot last
Right.
year.
Yeah.
It's so she's funny, but it's also. I just love New York, and it's so New York.
Yeah.
You know, she talks about. She says one morning I get up, and the L train is shut down. That's the train from Brooklyn, because of a foul smell. She says,
I remember
"How could-
that day."
How could they tell? How did they know?
Right.
She said, "What did they go down there?"
Isn't
and
that
say,
every
smell.
day?
It smells even
Isn't that
worse.
just Brooklyn? What are you talking about?
It's like,
Brooklyn is
isn't
itself
that every
a foul
day?
smell.
Oh, I just love New York, and it really made me nostalgic for it.
I
It's a
know.
good show.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm sad. I'm afraid it's going to make me
Yeah,
cry.
it's on our list.
You
I
know?
don't think it'll make you cry because she's so acerbic.
I know, she's funny.
and mean
She's very funny.
and grumpy and funny
Yeah.
that it won't make.
I'm just
you
sad
cry.
about New York right now. I'm just like,
It's
oh,
gonna be
come on,
back.
New York.
They
It's
have.
coming back.
They have.
It's New York. This is,
There's a segment. They
I
have
know.
Abe.
No, we will be
remember
back.
Abe
We
Beam?
will.
Remember Mayor Beam? And that was the era when New York was going bankrupt, and they showed
Yeah.
the Daily News headline: Ford to
Yeah.
New York, drop dead. and,
Yeah.
and it's an Abe Beam's at a press conference. Says, New York is not dead. It's not over. New York will live forever. And so it's things like that that'll make you go, yeah,
That's good.
you know what?
No, that's good.
It will. But she's
that's
the
good.
reason I thought of it is she's bemoaning the fact that they paved Times Square and put in what she calls lawn chairs. She said, "Yeah,
did-
that's
yeah.
that's what people were saying. You know what's wrong with New York? There's nowhere to lie down in Times Square."
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I honestly, I think one of the coolest things about New York, and actually, Times Square, you would know better than me, but I think it might even be in a little bit of a line of these things, kind of like that went by the old. I almost said Trapdoor. The old Rattle and Hum is there's these little triangular squares, or sometimes they're just little spaces, just a little bit of green, some seating.
Yeah, that's
sometimes
she's
it'll be a
complaining
park.
about that. She says it's starting to
I
look
think
like
that
my
stuff-
grandma's apartment. She said, I'm surprised there's not hard dishes of hard candy.
That's one of the. That's what I love about it. No, because you go from block to block, and there's something different every block. You know, I think that's one of
I
the
love walking
things that's
in New
appealing
York.
about
It's
New
the
York.
best thing.
Yeah.
It's the best thing.
Right now, not so fun, but yeah, we will be back. We will.
Of course. And I will be one of the first people in line to go visit because
In the meantime,
That's
we'll always
good.
have Emmaus. I'm just saying.
yeah,
It's similar.
similar.
Very similar. Very.
Folks, that is the end of episode 707 of Windows Weekly. We do this show every Wednesday, talking about Microsoft around about 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. That's 1800 UTC. And the only reason I mention that, because of course it's a podcast, which means you can listen to it whenever you're in the mood. We record it, but we do stream it as we do it live, so you can even watch it live. And there are people in the chat room at irc.twit.tv who are doing that, interacting with us, and so that's kind of fun if you're around of a Wednesday. The live streams at twit.tv/live. Now, the show, of course, is going to end up on the website as a podcast, twit.tv/WW. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to Windows Weekly, so you can subscribe there. Easiest thing to do, find a podcast application and subscribe, and that way you'll get it the minute it's available, usually late Wednesday, a couple of hours after this show ends. This is, as the beginning of the year, the time we do our yearly survey. We're doing it again. We do it to get a better sense of who's watching, what you're interested in, and to help us sell advertising, because that's our bread and butter, and we don't want to, give advertisers personal information about you. We don't know who you are. The survey's anonymous, and we don't track you. There's no way to do that in podcasts. But they always want to know a little bit. So we do this in the survey, and it helps us. If you don't mind taking about 10 minutes to answer, don't answer any question you're uncomfortable with. Again, it's completely anonymous. twit.tv/survey21. twit.tv/survey21 for our 2021 annual survey. You'll find this guy right here, Paul Thurrott, at thurrott.com. Become a premium member. Support him, THURROTT.com. His book, the current
Soon to be
book.
books. I'll talk about that next week.
Oh, exciting. But the field guide to Windows 10 is at leanpub.com.
I have a new co-author you may have heard of. Her name is... No, I'm sorry.
Mary Jo Foley writes a book a week pretty much at allaboutmicrosoft.com. That's her ZDNet blog. She's always typing. But between the two of them, there's no story that sneaks by. They know everything about Microsoft. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. Stay safe. Stay warm. I know it's a little chilly. Winter is coming, I hear.
It's been in the 20s each of the past several mornings.
Oh, wow. Has it really?
Yeah, dog still goes in the water. I have no idea what's going on there, but I know. It's crazy.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Mary Jo. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next time on Windows Weekly.
Sometimes the news of the week is best told by the people making and breaking it, and that is the essence of Tech News Weekly. Join me, Jason Howell, along with my co-host Micah Sargent, as we interview the people who are breaking the news that you're probably already talking about. Plus, sometimes we actually get the people who are making the news, the people behind the story. That's Tech News Weekly on twit.tv.